Hello, so today we are going to answer a question, and the question is if Brian is right or Angie is right. So Brian says that the fraction 1/2 and 1/4 are the same size because they both have 1 in the numerator, so they must be equal. Angie says that it is not correct. The two fractions 1/4 and 2/4 are the same because both of the numbers have 2 in the denominator. Who is right? So I'm going to explain this by using these pattern blocks today. So as you can see, this would represent our 1/2 and this would be representing our fourths. So to take 1/4 over the top, you can see that it covers half of one of these shapes. So you can see it covers 1/2. So that being said, it would take 2 to cover one of them, as you can see. So clearly, Brian is not correct because it should be 2/4 is equal to 1/2. And Angie is also not correct because 1/4 and 2/4 is not the same. So if you have 1/4 and then 2/4, that would also not be the same because technically, 2/4 is one more than 1/4. So, and would equal 1/2, and that's when both of them would be correct. If they both had said 2/4 and 1/2 are correct. But in this case, they would both be wrong, other than if they were to change their answers. So now to answer the second part is to show with Cuisinart rods. So we're going to represent one hole with this magenta colored rod. So then for our fourths, we're going to use these little white cubes. So we have 4, they'll be right here. So as you can see, 4 out of 4 would be a whole. 2 out of 4 would be a half, and 1/4 would be a fourth of that. So now to compare it to what a half of this would be, I'm going to have this bright pink, almost reddish colored cube to represent just half. So as you can see, I'm going to try to hold this up. As you can see, comparing all of these, that 2/4 would be a half instead of 1/4. Now, let's say we take out that. So really, a fourth is half of the bright pink color and a fourth of the magenta. So as you can see that for a fourth to equal a half, you'd have to have another fourth, which would be 2/4. So basically, once again, both of them would be wrong unless one of them were to say a half and 2/4. A half and 2/4 were the same compared to a whole. Now, obviously, them continuing to say that these are equal, this would be another way to show them that, physically have them see the Cuisinart rods. So the next part is to show with a number line. So as you can see here, we have 0, a fourth, a half, and 1. So based on this, you can see that this is a half. So this right here is half of a half. So if we were to add one more right here, one more fourth right in here, we would have 1/2, just like it shows here, out of this whole. So you would have 1/4 and 1/2. Now once again, this would be showing that neither of them would technically be correct unless they were to say that, having 2/4, which that's what this would be, technically from pretty much 0 across to 1/2 would be 2/4 if we were talking in fourths. And of course, this is also, this whole chunk is a half. So that would be correct if they said 2/4 and 1/2 is the same. Now, if they were just to say, like they have on there, that 1/2 and 1/4 is the same, 1/4 is just right in here. This is just 1/4. That does not equal to the same amount as 1/2, as you can see in the boxed in type areas. So in conclusion, basically both of them would be incorrect unless they were to have them labeled as, 2/4 equals 1/2. Or if they were to say, that 1/4 is smaller than 1/2, then that is when they would both be correct. And hopefully this helped you out. And yeah.